So I'm here in Fen Drayton, a little place in the heart of Cambridgeshire in England, and I've come to this nature reserve in the hope of seeing some ducks. So a nature reserve seems like a kind of odd place to come to explore the question of what executives want from the PMO. And we're going on a bit of a duck chase, and this whole duck chase started with a meeting that a friend of mine, Roberto Camanho in Brazil, had with a CEO, with the CEO of one of the world's largest oil and gas companies. And Roberto was explaining to him all about the details of his project. And the CEO's eyes glazed over, and eventually he stopped him and he said, "Roberto, I don't care if you have a boy duck or a girl duck. I just want eggs." And that's why we're here today. Hopefully we're going to get to see a duck or two, maybe some other creatures, other kinds of birds. Let's see what nature lays on for us. But the point of this is that the executives don't care about the detail of your ducks. They don't care about the detail of your projects. They don't care how beautiful your Gantt chart is or anything like that. They don't care what you feed your ducks or where you keep them. They just want the eggs. So your executives just want the value, the business impact that your project delivers. That's what they want. So is that the end of the presentation? No, we're just at the start. We're going to go see if we can find some ducks. Come with me. We're going to have lots of fun and metaphor and lots of puns and things like that as we go through this. And I hope you enjoy it. But there's a serious message behind me coming here and doing this in these beautiful surroundings today. When your executives are kind of running around and quacking, right? They're going, quack, give me an update on this, quack, I need a report on that, right? What they're really saying is that they're frustrated, right? They're not sure that they're going to get the business results that they want. And very often this means that the PMOs actually focus even more on project delivery and project execution. But that's simply not delivering the results to the business. And we'll look at some statistics in a minute on that. So it's simply not delivering the results to the business. Hello there. And so what's needed is a change of mindset, a change of approach. Yes, you've got to do project execution, but actually it's portfolio management and good governance that takes you from kind of the industry norm to good performance, right? From subpar performance to good performance. And the cost of not doing this is astronomical. So it's time to get on and do it right now. Don't wait, don't delay. We're going to follow a structure today in this session, right? We're going to look at why execs are unhappy. Then we're going to think about what needs to change. And then finally, I'm going to give you some ideas, very specifically, three things that you can do straight away that are going to change the game, going to change the performance and the relationship of the PMO with the organization forever. And those three things are project prioritization and project selection. It's staggering your projects and scheduling them. And then it's right-sizing the number of projects that you do, not overburdening your delivery teams, but making sure that you're balancing your ability to deliver projects with how many projects you actually do. So we're going to focus on those three actions and talk about why they're important a little bit later on. I've been wandering around for a little while now and I don't see any ducks. How ironic is that? You come to a bird sanctuary, there are no ducks. But out on the island out there, you probably can't see them or hear them. There are clearly thousands of birds of various descriptions. They just don't want to come near the shoreline here. I guess they're all nesting at this time of year. It's spring. So we may have to resort to stock videos for ducks. But anyway, let's see how it goes. So let's kick off and think about your executives and why they're frustrated. Well, if you think about it, right, they're sitting in the corner office and they're looking out through those lovely big glass doors and they can see a room full of people sitting at keyboards, banging away, doing stuff. They're spending millions of dollars on projects, but somehow they're still not able to achieve their business goals. They're not able to execute their strategy. the way that they want to. And that's maddening. And what makes it worse is that when they ask for, they ask why, they get these reports, really detailed reports about, actual versus budget. They get burn down charts, they get Gantt charts, they get all this detail that they probably don't even understand. And so they're frustrated. It's understandable. But if you look at it from a project delivery point of view, they're also frustrated, right? They're frustrated because the business never really seems to know what it wants. And they never have enough resources to deliver everything that's demanded. And that feels really disempowering. And when they ask for help, they get the distinct impression that executives really just don't understand how projects work. And again, they feel unsupported, and that's frustrating. But let's just think for a minute about why organizations do projects. Well, they do them in order to achieve their business goals, their strategic goals. Okay? And so the whole point of your projects is to achieve those strategic goals. It's not about the beauty of your project methodology. It's not about how well you implement Agile. It's not about any of that stuff. It's simply about delivering the business outcomes that the business needs. And so what needs to change? Well, you need to change. You need to get focused on that and only that, because that's the only thing that matters. Now, how you focus on that, we're going to talk about moving forward. Let's go see if we can find more ducks. So as an industry, how are we doing? Are we delivering that value, the business value, the intended business benefit from those projects? Well, according to the PMI, our success rates as an industry on average have stalled for the last 10, 15 years in the sort of 65, 70% range. Now think about that. If you had a car and every morning you get in the car and you only had a 70% chance of the car getting you to work, you wouldn't put up with it, right? You'd get rid of the car, or at least you get it fixed. But for some reason it seems okay that we just deliver the intended business benefit 70% of the time. I don't think it is okay. I think we need to do something about that. But unfortunately, what tends to happen is that people will look at that, executives and PMO leaders, look at that and they say, well, if we're not delivering, if our projects aren't being successful and we're not delivering the business benefit, then what we need is to really focus on project execution even more, right? And let's put in more templates. Let's put in more reporting. Let's put in more training. And the problem is we've been doing that for 15, 20 years as an industry, and the results have stalled. That doesn't work anymore. It's got us from the dark ages when project success rates were in the 30% range, right? It's got us up to this sort of 65, 70% range, but then it's stalled. Something's got to change if we're going to get beyond that sort of 70% number. And because the PMO is putting in place all of these extra templates and processes and more reports and all this kind of stuff, it turns out that basically just makes your PMO bureaucratic. And in fact, half of PMOs that are attempted never go live, and of the ones that go live, half get shut down within a few years. Right? So there's something here that's absolutely not working. The data's really, really clear. So let's come back to the idea of what it is that the executives care about. Well, what they don't care about is how pretty your Gantt chart is. They really don't care how wonderful your burn down reports are. Right? All they care about is getting the results. Right? They care about not the project, not the duck. They care about the egg. They care about the business result. And they only care about that, right? It's right there in their name. They're execs, right? They're execs. They care about the eggs. So why is it that they care about the eggs so much? Well, your executives have got a job to do. Their job is to make omelette for your customers, the products that you sell or the services that you deliver, and or even the value they deliver to shareholders. Right? That's their job. And to make an omelette, they need eggs, but they also need other ingredients. They need all of the business as usual activity. They need customer facing activity. They need financing to support it. And so their job is to make this wonderful omelette. And so they simply don't have much room. Oh, that's a bad pun. Yeah, I love that one. They don't have much room to be thinking about the details of your project. But someone has to. And my proposal is that the PMO should be the person that really obsesses about eggs. Right? It should really become a passion, is delivering value and hunting for that business value, not hunting the ultimate project implementation methodology, not scratching your head and pontificating about the fine details of Wagifall or Agile or Waterfall or any of these things, right? But just how do we improve the output, the business outcomes? So, eggs should be your obsession. Simple as that. And I'm going to explain to you the 3 things that you can do to give the executives more egg to make bigger and better omelettes. And there are only really 3 things you can do. You can pick bigger, better eggs and get rid of the bad ones. You can increase the number of eggs, the flow of eggs through the machine, through the factory, if you like. And you can break fewer eggs, right? You can have fewer project failures. That's it. Those are the only 3 levers you've got. So the first of our 3 opportunities, 3 actions, 3 tasks, if you like, is all about getting your ducks in a row, right? Getting your ducks all nicely lined up in a row and then investing in the ones that are going to deliver the biggest return to the business. Now this, in concept, right, project prioritization is really obvious, right? It's the simplest thing in the world. If you offer this pile of eggs to a 5-year-old and say, you can pick 3 eggs, which 3 eggs would you like? They're going to pick the biggest, right? I mean, it's pretty simple. So the data tells us that actually, as an industry, we're not very good at project prioritization. PMI research suggests that 1 in 5 projects, 20% of your projects are rotten eggs, right? They're so badly aligned with the organization's goals that they should be stopped. That's a pretty good definition of waste. So not only are we not always investing in the biggest projects, 20% of our projects are rotten eggs. We just shouldn't be doing them at all. They're destroying value. They're sucking resources from those nice, big, juicy eggs. But prioritization is often still really difficult for organizations. I mean, this is what we do day in, day out. And the kind of things that we hear from PMO leaders is that, you know, they have too many projects, or that selecting projects is a very political process, and they're often find themselves as the political football getting kicked around and having to be the bad guys who say no to some really powerful people in the organization. That's a horrible position to be in. We often hear that there's no real understanding of what the strategy is from the business side, right? So there are no clear criteria that we can use to determine which projects are more valuable than others. And often what you find when that's the case is that everything is top priority, right? And when everything is top priority, it turns out nothing's top priority, because if they're all the same priority, how do you decide where to put your resources? And finally, my favorite is that in the vast majority of organizations that we talk to, they may have some of these other problems that I just mentioned, but they almost all have the problem that ultimately, which projects gets done comes down to he who shouts loudest. Squeaky wheel gets the oil. Lots of different names for this one, right? But ultimately it comes down to who sells their vision, who has the power, and who has persistence to make their project happen. So what's a project professional, the PMO lead, what are they to do, right? Prioritization is difficult. So you hit Google and you start reading articles, watching videos on YouTube. And what you hear is a lot of different ideas, but the vast majority of them, well-meaning as they are not very effective. And I'll tell you how I know that in a minute. but they're not very effective. And so what we discover here is that project prioritization, they're looking in the wrong place. Project prioritization is not a project management problem. There's no point going to project management people for an answer. It's a decision management problem. So the place to look for a solution is in the decision science, right? And the decision scientists have got a secret, which is that there is a right way to prioritize projects. So one piece of research by the University of New South Wales looked at over 100 different methodologies for prioritizing projects. And what they discovered is that only 2 were really suitable for prioritization in large organizations. And they're called DEA, Data Envelopment Analysis, and AHP, Analytic Hierarchy Process. And AHP is much easier to implement, and that's why we picked it to build it into our software product. So if you want to prioritize well, use AHP, okay? It's well proven. The data and the research shows that it works in an environment where all those other methodologies don't work terribly well. Finally, birds, geese. So what is this AHP thing? It's a little bit conceptually like a weighted spreadsheet. So you define some criteria that reflect your business goals. You weight them, you score your projects, and then you make some decisions based on some pretty pictures. That's kind of how it works. It's how you do it that's different. So it's based on actual research, psychology research, and decision science. And it's based on the research into what actually works. So the first step is getting your senior leadership team aligned on which goals are most important. And AHP does that in a very elegant and structured way. The second piece is about measuring the size of your eggs, so scoring those projects against the criteria. And again, this is where a lot of the old wives' tale methods for prioritization fall apart. If you just bang together any old spreadsheet to score projects, you're probably not taking account of proper normalization rules. If you don't take care of normalization, you can't add up the scores from different criteria, but people do. And then they get strange results and they wonder why. So AHP has got some very rigorous rules that were researched and validated and debated and tested over a couple of decades to get to the point where it's robust and rigorous. And then once you've figured out which are the big eggs and the small ones, you then have a nice framework that you can use to select the projects and sort of balance your portfolio across the organization, across business units and all that kind of good stuff. So the result of all of this work, this AHP stuff, is better quality decision with a lot less noise and randomness, right? Estimating the future, trying to figure out what projects to do is an exercise in managing uncertainty. There's always uncertainty. But done right, AHP with a few extra bells and whistles that we've added into the software really helps reduce the noise and improve the quality of the data. So you can trust the data, lean on the data much more. And ultimately, that means that you end up getting your ducks in a row, right? You have everything aligned to your strategy, and that leads to better outcomes. So the irony of coming to a bird reservation to find some ducks to illustrate this silly talk, and then not finding any birds is not lost on me. That's kind of what executives feel like, right? They're not getting their ducks or their eggs either. So it's, in a way, it's kind of appropriate there are no ducks. I guess we'll probably cut some stock video in a minute. But anyway, and actually it's almost a metaphor itself, because obviously this isn't the right tool to see ducks. I should have gone to a little river in the middle of a little village where people feed the ducks every day and then the ducks will come running. So I used the wrong tool for the job. And that's what people do when they use spreadsheets. Again, the research shows that those spreadsheets don't really work terribly well. That 20% number comes from an industry that's using those spreadsheets to prioritize projects, right? So they're giving you the 20% waste. And if you think about it, right, let's say you're investing $10 million or 10 million pounds, whatever country you're in, pick your own currency, but you're investing 10 million of them in projects, right? That means that 20% are rotten eggs. 20% of that 10 million is waste. $2 million, 2 million pounds, whatever, straight up the chimney, right? complete waste. But it's worse than that, because you're making an investment in your projects. You expect a return on that investment. Let's say you expect a return on investment, say 3%. So you're not losing 2 million, you're not wasting 2 million, you're losing out on $6 million or pounds or whatever, 6 million of value. Now, often people will say, let's use a spreadsheet, it's free. It's not free. It's costing you 6 million a year. That's an expensive spreadsheet. So, step one, we've looked at prioritization and why that's important, picking bigger and better eggs, getting rid of the rotten eggs. I'm just going to call that bigger eggs to mean all of those things. But the way to do that is to use this AHP method that's proven to work and give you bigger, better eggs. All right, I've just been told that if we go down this road for a few minutes, there's a hide down there and we might get to see some birds. How exciting is that? But as it happens, this road is the perfect metaphor for our next topic, which is all about flow, the flow of projects. How do we increase that flow of projects through to delivery? And I'm going to start this section by talking about utilization rates. Right? So here's a highway, and this highway is 0% utilized. And how many drivers, how many occupants of vehicles are getting to their destination on this highway? 0, right? You do no projects, you get no value. So you add more projects. And the more projects you add, the more value, the more passengers make it to their destination. So you add more cars, more projects, add more projects, add more projects, and eventually, you know, the flow rate keeps increasing, and eventually it kind of maxes out. And if you keep going, you get to 100% utilization. And there's a special word for 100% utilization of a road. That word is a traffic jam. So the flow of projects increases as you add more projects at low utilization. But when your utilization is high, the flow rate suddenly drops off. That usually happens round about 80, 90% capacity. And it happens because you start getting resource contention and projects are almost kind of tripping over each other, bumping into each other. Right? And so you don't want to be all the way over on that side of the curve, on the right-hand side of the curve. And that's exactly where most organizations live. And when people want more value, they want to see more projects completed, what they usually say is, well, we're not 100% utilized. We can get more projects done by squeezing another few projects in. And actually the opposite happens. Your projects will slow down. You'll get more resource contention, more collisions, and the flow rate of projects will actually reduce. So how do we fix this? Well, it's our old friend project prioritization again. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put in place AHP-based prioritization. So that gets us onto a higher hill to start with, right? So we're on a higher curve. And that's because we're picking bigger eggs, better eggs, we're getting rid of the rotten eggs, all that good stuff. But then we're going to use the prioritization for what it's actually intended for. Prioritization isn't about deciding what projects we do. Prioritization is really about deciding what projects you don't do. And when you have clear prioritization, it's actually quite easy then to balance the number of projects with the capacity that you have to deliver them and to position yourself at the top of the hill. And you can see in this example, when you do that, right, you move to a higher hill and you go to the top of the hill, you get twice as many eggs, roughly, right, in this example. Of course, it's a made-up example, but you know, it's giving you twice as much value simply by putting yourself on the top of a higher hill. Now, if you're a project delivery professional, that doesn't give you goosebumps. You're in the wrong industry, right? Because that gives me goosebumps every time I talk about it. But I'm not done yet. There's another trick I'm going to share with you. All right, so I just saw a couple of ducks all the way over there. Keep your eye on it. Maybe they'll reappear. They've disappeared into the reeds. But I promised you that we weren't done yet. So I want you to look at this picture. Right? This is the start of a running race. And so they let everybody go, you know, shoot the firing gun, everyone sets off running. But look at this guy here, right? He's not paying attention, you know, he's picking his nose, he's thinking about what he's going to have for lunch when he finishes the race, something like that. And guess what? He kind of stumbles and he bumps into the guy next to him, who stumbles and falls over, and the person behind him falls over, and 3 more people behind them fall over. And before you know it, you've got 15, 20 people lying on the floor wondering what just happened. Well, that's exactly what happens to your projects if you start them all on January the 1st. And I'm always amazed how many organizations do this. So if you start all your projects on January the 1st, they're all going to collide. And you're going to have this kind of a mess. So the answer to this problem is remarkably simple. Right? It's to stagger your projects. And I'm going to head back to the office, or cut back to the office, where I'll show you a quick experiment. So to do this experiment, all you need is an old ketchup bottle and a few chocolate eggs in there and something to catch them in. And seems kind of appropriate, really. Ketchup bottle and eggs. Some people would rather have a brown sauce bottle. You can try that if you like. Anyway, here's what happens if you start all your projects on January the 1st. We got a few eggs out, but not very many. So what happens if, instead of starting them all on January the 1st, if we stagger the eggs so that they reach the opening a few at a time? There we go. We get a nice steady stream of eggs, and that's what we're after. So staggering projects leads to a nice steady flow, an increased flow of projects of value to the business. Welcome back. So what we just learned is that we need to stagger our projects. And so don't start them all on January the 1st. Organize them around your most in-demand, your most constrained resource or resources. Right? Because they're the bottleneck, right? So take anything off their plate that doesn't need to be on their plate, somebody else can do it, and then optimize the flow, the delivery of projects to them so that they just have that nice, lovely delivery cadence and everything else works around them, everything else is scheduled around them. And that will help increase your flow. And of course, you want to try and balance it throughout the year so you don't have too many peaks and troughs. Now, traditionally, people have tried to do this using spreadsheets. It's the spreadsheets again. That's pretty hard to do, actually. It's really hard to run through different iterations and different scenarios in a spreadsheet. So I don't recommend that. PPM tools moved the game along, moved the game forward quite a lot when they started delivering this sort of multi-project, portfolio level scheduling capability. And usually it looks like a Gantt chart. You drag and you drop your projects, and then down beneath you can see the hotspots of where your resources are overloaded. And so let's say you've got a hotspot in May, you drag a project further out in the timeline, and you resolve that problem in May. Oh dear, now we've got a problem in September. So you drag a project, and great, we've solved. Oh dear, we've broken February, right? And you get in. The challenge is that you get into this game of whack-a-mole, and it can take quite a while to find a scenario that works. And there's no guarantee that that's the best scenario, the one that's going to give you the best flow through the system. Now, I'm recording this in the spring of 2023. The world is absolutely on fire about ChatGPT and other AI tools. And this is an area that AI is coming to the rescue as well. So there are a number of tools out there now that are looking at AI kind of solutions to optimize this scheduling, and Transparent Choice is one of those. So if you want to see it, come reach out to us and we'll show you what that looks like. But basically the AI will play whack-a-mole for you, searching for an optimized solution that maximizes, minimizes the overload on your resources and gets you a proper scheduled roadmap of projects. And we'll be able to do that quickly, having gone through hundreds of iterations, do that in a few minutes rather than playing whack-a-mole for a couple of days. Now, somewhere around here, people will often say, "Come on, Stuart, this is fairy dust. This doesn't really work. You don't just by staggering projects, you can't really increase your project flow, can you?" And just like the ducks here in Fen Drayton, it doesn't really exist. So to that I say, yes, it does. Mike Hannon is probably the world's hottest expert on this theory of constraints approach to scheduling projects. So theory of constraints is what this is all based on, and the idea is to organize everything around your tightest constraint and to schedule, offload as much as you can off that constraint, and then schedule everything to flow through there nice and easily. And Mike's done this. You can see the numbers on the slide. I won't read through them, but it really works. It's 2 times, 3 times, 4 times the flow rate from the same resources. This isn't about increasing resources. It's about increasing flow rate from the same resources simply by doing good prioritization, position yourself at the top of the hill, and then optimize the scheduling around your most constrained resource. A few other tricks that Mike can teach you as well. If you're interested, we'll have a link on the page below that'll take you to his website. Can you hear that? There's a cuckoo just over here in the trees. That's cool. Okay, so we're not seeing many birds, but I don't know if you can hear them, but I'm hearing lots of birds. So we're now onto our third area, which is about fewer broken eggs, fewer failed projects. And for this one, I'm actually going to come right back to where we started and look at this number, that 70% number. Right? Do you remember that one from earlier? Well, it doesn't have to be like that. The PMI did some research and they looked at the top 10%, I think it was, of performing organizations. They don't deliver projects on target, delivering the intended business result just 70% of the time. They deliver it 90% of the time. That's about around about a 30% increase in business value. Again, you don't need more resources to do that. You just need to stop breaking the eggs. Right? You need to stop breaking your projects. You just need to deliver the business value. So to figure out how to do that, we're going to do a little bit of root cause analysis and try and understand why projects fail. And our guide on that journey is Laura Barnard, who was the PMO Global Alliance's Thought Leader of the Year last year, and really is, in my experience, one of the absolute top professionals, coaching professionals for PMO leaders. So if you want to make your PMO fly, go talk to Laura. Again, I'll put a link down below. And Laura did a webinar with us a month or two ago where she went through this analysis. So with her permission, I've replicated that, put it into our format, but replicated her slides and her story. So it starts off with, your projects aren't doing so well. So what do? Well, the project managers have to be, what's the cause of that? Project managers aren't doing the job. So you go talk to the project managers to find out why, right? We're just going to keep asking why. Why? And well, it's because the delivery resources never deliver stuff on time. So you go talk to the delivery resources and they say, well, I just have too much on my plate and I just keep getting more. And sometime around about there, often people will kind of figure out or will assume that what they have is a resource management problem. But actually, it's not a resource management problem at all. It's a problem of just having too much work, right? You're trying to get, Laura calls it the 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag problem. Now, if you're American and you work in pounds, you'll know what that means. If you're anywhere else in the world and you work in kilos, it's like trying to stuff 10 kilos of stuff into a 5-kilo bag, right? It doesn't fit. And so so you say, why? Well, it's because we're not prioritizing. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is to prioritize and to put in place a proper prioritization and portfolio governance process. Okay. So it turns out that a lot of the project failure that we're struggling with is actually at its root cause a lack of governance at the portfolio level, not at the project level, at the portfolio level. And that's exactly what the PMI research concluded, is that the big difference between the winners and the top and the rest is the fact that they didn't just do project execution. They absolutely did do project execution well, but they also did portfolio level governance, prioritization, scheduling, all those things. They also did that well. So it turns out if you want to go from 70% success rate to a 90% success rate and break fewer eggs, then actually you need to focus on the portfolio just as much as, and possibly even more, than you do focusing at the individual project level. Way! Finally a bird on the water. It's not a duck, it's a swan, and it's so far away and the zoom's not strong enough to really pick it out. But hopefully you can see a tiny little white speck out there, which is a swan on the water. So, let's bring it all together. Let's just sort out the zoom a little bit. There we go. Okay, so let's bring it all together, right? So what we're going to do is to improve the quantity and quality of eggs that we're delivering to the executive. We're going to give them bigger eggs. We're going to prioritize and select more intelligently. We're going to increase the flow of eggs. Right? We're going to give them more eggs, flow rate. And then we're going to break fewer eggs. We're going to take better care of those projects and not have as many failures. So what does this translate to in terms of numbers? So on the left-hand side, you've got the situation today, right? The way that most organizations are doing it. On the right-hand side, you've got the new way with good portfolio management. On the left-hand side, we've got 70 eggs. The right-hand side got 100 because we've improved the flow rate. And on the left-hand side, 20% of those eggs are rotten. On the right-hand side, let's say we halve that using AHP. Okay. On the left-hand side, we're going to break 30% of our eggs. On the right-hand side, we're only breaking 10% of those eggs that are left. And so what we end up with is 39 eggs on the left and 81 on the right. So that's about 107% improvement simply by improving the portfolio management. We haven't done anything to project execution here. And they're bigger eggs. They're going to be bigger eggs because we're doing prioritization better. So all of this has happened at the portfolio level by prioritization, by staggering, putting ourselves on top of the hill, staggering, and then again by balancing the demand with our ability to execute, our capacity for execution. That's all we've done, and we've done it all at the portfolio level, and it's absolutely transforming the output. 107% increase in output from our imaginary egg factory. So let's go back to our $10 million portfolio, right? $10 million invested, we're expecting a 3x return, so we're expecting $30 million of value. From 100 projects, that means each project is worth $300,000. And on the left, we delivered 39 projects. On the right, we delivered 81 projects. So that's a difference in value that's been delivered of $12 million. That's more than we're investing in the whole portfolio, right? So we're more than doubling the return from the portfolio. And just to put that into perspective, that's about $34,000 every single day that you delay. So it's time to act right now. And so it's time to go and hatch a plan. My suggestion is jump on over to our website, transparentchoice.com, and go and download the Ultimate Guide. That's going to give you Ultimate Guide to Project Prioritization. That's going to give you loads of hints and tips on how to get started, what good practice looks like, and then reach out to us. Book a demo or just schedule a call. We love talking about this stuff. Even if you're not ready to buy our software, come talk to us and we'll give you as much advice as we can for free. And you're free to use that advice whether you buy the software or not.